Hey, what is up, mortals? It is I, the Spirit of Vice, here with a new video for you today. Welcome to part 8 of What If Deku Became a Green Lantern. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So, we begin. As Midoriya took in the sight of his upperclassmen, he could only think of one thing to say. "Nice to meet you, Blue Lantern, sir," he stammered while bowing his head. Upon seeing this, Mirio chuckled at the stuttering boy. "You don't need to be so serious, Midoriya. I'm just an upperclassman, not a pro or important figure," he said. "While it's nice to see a student being so respectful and polite, I have to agree with Mr. Togeda here. You're supposed to be equals here, so don't force yourself to be overly formal," the principal added with a small smile. Izuku raised his head while looking sheepish. Sorry about that. Force of habit." "It is no issue, young one. It merely shows your pleasant upbringing. I'm sure Inko would be proud." The third one to excuse his action was someone that young Izuku had never met, but considering the circumstances as well as the familiarity that the voice addressed him with, it was obvious that Adara had spoken to him. "Right," he replied. In truth, hearing another entity speak as if they were close was weird, especially considering how long it took him to adjust to Ion. But he decided to ignore the hierarchical faux pas and continue with the conversation. "I assume you know why you're here?" Nezu inquired in order to make sure there were no further delays. The Greenette nodded. "You wanted to introduce me to the Blue Lantern, so that we'd be able to coordinate later and avoid any unnecessary complications, right?" The animal hybrid thing nodded before gesturing to the blond boy beside him. "Correct. I'm assuming you know who Mirio is, yes?" "Mirio Togeda. Quirk unknown, possibly related to his tangibility considering his brief appearance in last year's sports festival. Beyond that, I don't really know anything about him." "Wow, you got that close to my quirk just from watching me on TV for a bit? That's rad!" The other lantern chimed in with a huge grin on his face that made him look like an excited child. Hold on, let me try it. Izuku Midoriya, quirk seemingly none, though you pass off your ring as a support item to help you manifest your power." His impersonation was flawless. Izuku couldn't even close his mouth as he stared at his superior in shock. "As funny as this is, perhaps we should move on to the main point here and have you two figure out a way to communicate down the line. Seeing as you both were tasked with recreating your complementary core by those Guardian fellows all those months ago." Nezu interrupted the two of them in an attempt to get this little meetup back on track. They'd come here for a reason, after all.
Oh, you're right. I completely forgot.
They both exclaimed at the same time. Nezu nodded. "Well, let's hope you two don't continue to neglect your responsibilities. Even if you're both only students, you've accepted a big responsibility, one that we can only help you carry, not shoulder for you. To that end, it's imperative that you learn how to rely on each other. We narrow-minded Earthlings can only do so much when dealing with aliens, but you two are the ones with the legacies of the universe's greatest peacekeepers. Then, Mirio, how should I contact you?" Izuku asked his newfound ally in an attempt to make sure that nothing else distracted them. It would be easier to joke around when they had the ability to coordinate their meetups. "Yep, give me your phone. I'll add you to my contacts," Mirio responded while scratching the back of his head. "And, sorry about Miss Adara. She's pretty invasive. But I figure you probably know all about that." "Well, I can't say I don't know the feeling," the torchbearer replied as he reminisced on all the times Ion had referred to people he barely knew by their first names, and it creeped him out. It was nice to see someone else know the feeling. As the two of them were exchanging their information, Nezu silently laughed to himself. Humans were stubborn, idiotic, and prone to foolish judgments. But on the flip side, those traits also served to create a tight-knit sense of kinship between different people. And that was exactly what was happening here. As the principal, the mouse-dog-bear amalgamation always found joy in seeing two students befriend each other, even if he was directly responsible for their meeting. Unfortunately, they wouldn't be able to enjoy themselves any longer, as the alarm chose that moment to go off and scare the living daylights out of all of them.
Alert! Alert! Level 3 security breach. Please evacuate in an orderly fashion.
Seems we'll have to cut this meeting short, Lanterns. But don't worry, we'll take care of this. Just focus on meeting up with your class and waiting outside for a bit, Nezu exclaimed as he swiftly left his desk and raced out of the room, leaving his students to depart from the school by themselves. You don't have your ring, do you? Mirio inquired as they sprinted through the halls while trying to avoid the stampeding students all around them. No! Deku panted as they made their way back to the cafeteria. I left it in my bag. Dang! I can't do much aside from fly and heal people, Mirio said. I really hope I don't have to help anyone here, but aside from my permeation, I can't really do anything else. I don't think we're in too much danger, but you should head to your classroom first and get your ring before you head back to your class. You might need it if this is a village. Right, Izuku muttered as he and Mirio split up as the hallway opened up. While Mirio left to go to his other classmates, Midoriya made his way back to room 1A to retrieve his ring. Since he didn't have a quirk, he'd be defenseless without it. Fortunately, he didn't need to be in physical contact with the ring to use some of its features. There was a certain range he could be in where Ion could detect his thoughts. Ion! He thought as he neared the classroom. In response, the entity began manipulating the ring, flying it out of the backpack and right onto his host's finger as the boy opened the door. A brief wave of verdant energy washed over him as he felt his willpower surge. It was a great feeling to have. Let's go help Mirio, he thought as he turned around and began racing through the halls. Students, please return to your classrooms. The situation has been assessed. It was just the press and we've chased them off. Everything is fine and classes will resume as scheduled. If you sustained any injuries in the panic, please report to the nurse. Only for the principal to announce that the situation was already handled. To be honest, it was kind of a letdown, considering how the adrenaline rush had gotten his heart pumping. But Izuku knew that the important thing was that the hysteria had subsided, and the fact that he hadn't been immediately grateful by the announcement made him feel a bit ashamed. Midoriya! Thank goodness you were unscathed during that stampede! Ida exclaimed as soon as the rest of the class had returned. Apparently, Izuku was the only one who had been unaccounted for during the scare. Yeah, I'm fine, Deku said with a smile. Well, what happened? You didn't get rushed while on your way back here, did you? Uraraka asked, just as he finished replying to Ida. I was with the principal when the whole thing started, and I just came back here to get my ring in case we were being attacked. My quirk doesn't work without it, so I didn't want to be defenseless, he explained. Behind him, Bakugo scoffed. Uraraka and Ida nodded. Well, I kept my cool during the whole thing, Midoriya, Mineta piped in with a cocky grin. But you tried clinging on to Kirishima while screaming that we were going to get crushed to death, Uraraka rebutted. The boy's smile fell as if he looked like he'd just been outed as a fraud, which technically he had been. Deku began laughing at the silliness of the situation, already forgetting about the brief fear he'd felt when the alarms first came on, and instead thinking about how nice it was to have a group of friends. Hey! Don't laugh at me! Midoriya! Mineta shouted while Ida and Uraraka just laughed along with Deku. Around them, some of the other students chuckled under their breaths in an attempt to spare the smaller boy's feelings, though most of them failed to do so. As the day turned to night, Izuku found himself glued to his phone. With all the new people he'd met at UA, he'd recently been engaging in the middle schooler's practice of staying up late at night while chatting with his friends. And now he was chatting with his most recent friend, Mirio Togeda. So, do you know what exactly happened today? That was the first thing he texted the older boy after they confirmed that they had the correct numbers. Mirio's response was a little concerning. Well, aside from what All Might told me, someone destroyed a portion of the UA gate and let the media in. The teachers don't know who. That's not good, Deku thought. Someone not only managed to break the gate, they did it while remaining relatively unnoticed, even when surrounded by all those cameras. I wonder if they're going to cancel the trip to the USJ tomorrow. I hope not, because it's supposed to be taught by Aizawa, All Might, and someone else. Wait a minute! Did you say you were told this by All Might? Mirio had definitely typed that he was informed by All Might himself, but how the heck did he know All Might? Deku had to know. I didn't get a chance to mention it earlier. I'm actually interning with All Might's old sidekick, Sir Night-Eye. So I got to meet him around the time I became the Blue Lantern. He had some issues he needed looked at, and I helped him out. That's incredible! Mirio sent a blushing emoji before his reply. Stop, you're making me blush. And it's getting late, isn't it? As your senior, I can't let you stay up all night. You need your sleep, son. Having concluded their conversation, Midoriya plugged his phone in and tried drifting off to sleep, an impossible task considering how excited he was. The whole day had been a rush. And tomorrow they were going on an actual field trip to practice rescue work. But as he was lying in his bed, a thought occurred. Did Togeda just say we could talk tomorrow? At the USJ? This video is sponsored by Grubhub. With more than 3,000 store locations, Grubhub offers on-demand convenience delivery across the country. You can search for restaurants by cuisine or location, quickly order food from the menu, and track your order from the app, all hassle-free and without any extra charges. Grubhub charges less than other food delivery services, allowing you to get the best value for your money. With Grubhub Plus, you can get free delivery prices for 10 meals every month on orders of $12 or more for only $9.99 a month. That's not all. You can use the code AFF25 to save 25% off your first mobile purchase of $15 or more. This code is for a limited time, so again, get 25% off your first mobile order of $15 or more if you use code AFF25. Check the link in the description. Thank you again to Grubhub for sponsoring this video. As the next day came, Deku discovered that Mirio was indeed coming with them on their outing, along with 2 others. All right, class. I have something to announce before we leave, Aizawa said as they were leaving the classroom, drawing all eyes to him. We'll be joined by UA's top 3 students, each of them believed to be the cream of the crop in terms of students. And, of course, they're all 3rd years. But I'll let them introduce themselves on the buses. With that bombshell dropped on the class, the students made their way to the buses. As they got there, they saw a trio of wildly different students. From a blonde with a red cape and cool visor to a shy-looking guy that had his hood up and was looking away from them. To a cheery girl that was wearing a green and white bodysuit and watching them with childlike curiosity. Hey! Are these the 3rd years? Oh, they look so diverse and fresh! The girl immediately came over to them and started spouting out her opinions. These horns look kind of annoying if you wear a hat. Are those balls on your head or something else? Is your costume so revealing because you're quirk or just because you like it? Are you wearing a mask because you're sick or just trying to look cool? Hado, please. Aizawa took the chance to interrupt the girl. You can ask about them on the ride over. For now, you all need to separate and get onto the buses. We're running behind schedule, he growled. Right. Sorry, sir. Mirio apologized on her behalf before gesturing for the students to walk with him to the 2nd bus. Half of you can follow me on this bus over here with Mr. Aizawa, while Amajiki and Hano will accompany the rest of you. Since us being together would be a bit problematic, I think I'll be riding with the other 2. Deku thought as he walked onto the closer of the two buses behind Uraraka and Yayorozu. There would be a chance to speak with Togeda at the USJ. As the students were waiting to arrive at the unforeseen simulation joint, or USJ for short, they found themselves bombarded by questions from the only female member of the Big Three.
So, how do your earlobes work? Can you plug them into computers and stuff?
She asked Jiro before turning her attention to Asui.
And Asui, what type of frog does your quirk emulate? Because there are lots of frogs in nature. And you, Midoriya, how does your ring differ from Mirio's?
Huh? Deku scrambled up as she suddenly shifted her questions to him, in a way that risked outing his powers as alien in origin.
Huh? Togeda has a ring like Deku's?
Uraraka asked, with a confused expression on her face. Nejire looked excited as she answered, oblivious to the fear painted on Izuku's face.
Yep. Mirio said that the Green Lantern has different powers than the Blue Lantern, like being able to make constructs instead of healing people. You can make constructs and talk to the Green Whale God, right?
Crap! What do I do? This is so bad! Midoriya silently panicked as he tried to think of a logical way to explain her questions. But with a stroke of luck, it was Amajiki who saved him. Nejire, you're pestering him. Don't you remember Mirio specifically telling us not to bother him? They even had a whole meeting yesterday about it with the principal, he said while signaling for her to stop talking.
Oh, right. Sorry about that.
She smiled.
But what's this about their quirks being similar? What did you mean by that?
Shut up! I'm trying to sleep! Mineta was ultimately cut off by Bakugo, whose demand silenced all further communication. Whether it was to help or just because he was actually trying to sleep, Izuku didn't know. But he was silently grateful for Katsuki's interference. As the students filed out of the buses and into the USJ building, they were greeted by All Might and 13. Welcome, students, to the USJ! All Might said cheerfully. To his side, 13 took their captivation as an opportunity to properly introduce the facility.
As All Might said, welcome. This is a facility specifically designed by me to help you learn how to use your quirks properly. As I'm sure you know, your powers can be used to help people, but they can also be extremely dangerous if used incorrectly. Take my quirk, Black Hole, for example. With it, I can easily remove any obstacles like crumbled terrain. But if I'm negligent while using it, I could accidentally suck up a person with it. They'd be dead the second they come near me.
All 23 students remained silent as they collectively envisioned their powers going rogue. Some students, such as Kirishima and Koda, didn't have to think much about the issue, but some others, such as Todoroki and Mina, could easily see their powers harming someone in an irreversible way. Ahem! Well, that's a little morbid for a lesson, but she's right. We're hoping to stress this here. You really need to be careful when... All Might stopped suddenly when the lights began flickering. Then, before anyone said anything about it, something happened in the main plaza. Sir, what's that? Ida asked as he looked to Aizawa to explain the purple mist that was swirling around the fountain. 13, Big 3, stay with 1A. All Might, let's go. Those are real villains. Aizawa's response only served to further freak the students out as he and the hulking blonde raced to the main plaza to deal with the unexpected threats. But as All Might began throwing punches at the small fries, he was suddenly blocked by a hulking bird-man thing with huge bulging eyes and an exposed brain. It looked pretty creepy, to be honest.
You know, it's a little rude to start knocking people down when they've come so far to kill you. Even if they're just fodder to you.
A deranged voice rasped out. Looking back to the portal, All Might locked eyes with a younger man with pale blue hair that was wearing hands. The number 1 pro hero grunted in response. Just who are you? Why have you come here?
Didn't I just tell you? We're here to kill you, All Might.
The handyman explained.
We've got all these grunts, and we've got a Nomu. And if that doesn't work, then Sensei will come back us up. But now that I think about it, Sensei did say that he wanted to get rid of the green and blue lanterns. And since he figured they'd be at UA, I guess he'll come to you sooner or later. Kurogiri, if you would.
The purple mist dissipated and started forming around the students. Giving them no time to react, it enveloped them and then broke apart, revealing an entrance that was devoid of students. What did you do to my students? The man smiled in response to this.
Oh, I'd be a bit more worried about yourself before you think about rescuing your pupils. Nomu, kill him, then take out the other 2 teachers. Mob, don't get in Nomu's way. I wouldn't want Sensei thinking I can't handle this.
The beast known as Nomu screeched a horrifying noise and then threw a punch right at All Might, sending him flying back. Behind them, Aizawa immediately went on the offensive and started attacking the villains closest to them, knocking them out swiftly while they were distracted by the leader. Elsewhere, Izuku found himself falling into a giant body of water, while Mineta, Kirishima, and Mirio all fell on the adjacent boat in the water. Thinking quickly, Mirio took out his ring from a ring box he'd acquired months ago from Sir Night-Eye for the sole purpose of housing the ring and placed it on his finger. A Blue Lantern logo appeared on the center of his costume. It would be best to have the ability to heal and fight in a situation like this. Unfortunately, he'd overlooked the fact that he was in close proximity to Ion. A cry erupted from the water, followed by a blinding green light that shot out from the sudden whirlpool. The waves were so intense that they sent the submerged villains flying out of the water to the land and nearly capsized the boat. Emerging from the center of the swirl and hovering above it, Izuku was screaming his heart out while bursting with raw willpower. It was so intense that he couldn't contain it all, as it continued creating shockwaves that began reaching the nearby zones.
This is what happens when a green and blue lantern are close together? Adara, you didn't say anything about it being this intense!
Mirio shouted as all 3 boys held onto the rails for dear life.
My apologies. It seems I miscalculated my effect on Ion as opposed to a normal green and blue ring. But remember that the relationship is symbiotic and goes both ways. I would advise you find your newfound constructs to get Mineta and Ejiro away from here.
The entity replied.
Oh, right!
Mirio shouted as he created rope constructs around his friends and flew them off the ship to the nearby land. Once they were on dry land, Mineta stammered out what all 3 of them were thinking.
What the hell is happening with Midoriya?
Thank you all for indulging yourselves in this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. And lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members who are 16 years or older to join our crew. You can sign up for whatever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for new members to join us. Well, that is it from us for today's video. Thank you all so very much for watching. Once again, I have been the Spirit of Vice, telling all of you to have a great day.